the energy, one is not right and the other is wrong. That's not how it works. And man, being a man is not equivalent. It's not the equivalence of masculine frame. In our society that we live in today, a man is expected to bring the masculine frame. So what masculine does is bring structure into the context. The feminine energy it kind of receives and multiplies, but by itself, it's a chaotic thing. It's not something that can. It's chaotic, especially when you had another person that has a misplaced masculine frame. That means two people trying to operate in any one of those two is always chaotic. So if two people are trying to operate in masculine, it's chaotic. If people are trying to operate in feminine, it's chaotic. So if you have the woman being a typical woman in our society, it's very important to note that feminine doesn't equal to woman. But in our society, that's what it means these days, for the most part, right? So we watched the show, Love and Marriage, on Own's Network. We've done a few reviews about this in the past. Okay. So, and some of those videos continue to gain views. So, if you know how this works, if we have opinions about it, we want to keep sharing. So, the question today is: can and should Martell get his ex-wife Melody back? All right. So, there's a little quote here. I can read that quote later, but let me just get your submission first. So, in recent times, let's do this. The last episode we saw, they were supposed to have a meeting, do some business together, but they could not handle it. Right. Children were involved. Children busted into tears.
Right.
They were barking at each other, and I don't know. It doesn't look like acting to me. I do know that the cameras can influence certain behavior in people. So we have to kind of factor that in.
Right.
But I don't think they're pretending. So I think it's made it known that he kind of sort of wants his wife back. I'm not sure, right? He wants her back until he feels attacked.
Right.
So my question for you is that can or should Martell get his ex-wife Melody back?
Can and should. Well,
a quick background for those that don't know who they are. Sorry, I'm supposed to do this. So I'll just read this quote. Marriage is a difficult affair, one that many couples cannot seem to make work. In fact, according to the National Center for Health Statistics, 40% of first marriages end in divorce within 10 years and 60% within 15 years.
Wow.
That's why it may be hard for you to believe that Martell and his ex-wife is the cast of the show Love and Marriage on Oprah Winfrey's network. That's why it may be hard for you to believe that Martell and his ex-wife Melody have been married for 10 years before, or let's say had been married for 10 years before they split. Before they split up, after Melody discovered that her husband had been unfaithful to her with many women in their community. Can he get his ex back? Should he get his ex back? So there's a lot of bickering. They're always fighting. There's always, people are always getting triggered. So based on what you know, can he? Number one, the first question is can Martell get his ex-wife Melody back? The second question is should he get his ex-wife Melody back?
Okay, based on what we've seen.
Based on what we've seen, we don't know everything.
Yeah. That Martell has been.
Personally, I don't think they can pretend.
Yeah. Based on what we've seen so far and how Martell moves, he can't get his wife back.
He can't.
He can't.
Okay.
Now, if he changes, oh my God.
Sorry, baby.
Okay. Let me move a little bit. Jeez. If he changes, if he starts to do the work, if he's listening, if he's not, just getting triggered left, right, and center, if he actually focus on working on himself and not watching Melody's moves every time,
Right.
yes, he can get her back because he's been with her for the longest time than the person that she might be saying.
But based on what we've seen right now, it's not.
But based on what we've seen over the season right now, I don't think the season has ended.
Right.
He is not in a space to get his wife back. She doesn't
Specifically, what about him?
Because he's always arguing with her. He's always, the way he acts. Honestly, to be sincere, I don't think most women can be with a man like that. He has that feminine energy.
What does feminine energy mean?
He's always when women, I'm not saying all women bicker, but I feel like it's a feminine thing to complain and whine and all that. But for a man, I don't think it's masculine at all. I feel like most men, even though when most men are being put to the test, that's when you can see how weak men can be. So,
right, which is men. So generalizing. Yes. So when you say, okay, so I agree with you. Okay, I agree with you.
If you're not being put to the test, you can look like you got your shit together. But when you're going through it, it's not easy. And you will see people that you think are capable of standing up to the test fall apart.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not easy. Because you have kids involved. You have...
we're talking about Martell and Melody. So Martell and Melody has kids involved.
They have... how many kids? They have 4 kids.
They have 4 kids.
Yes, they have 4 kids. The kids are seeing all kind of stuff going on. And, kids will be affected, no doubt. But, again, the marriage has gotten to a point where...
No, there's no marriage. They're divorced now.
Okay. Are they finally divorced?
Yeah, they're divorced.
Okay, so...
Yeah. Because she's very quick to remind him, too, that I'm no longer your woman. But, here, okay, so with the way it's moving right now, I don't think it's possible. And I want to speak precisely with because you mentioned feminine and masculine energy, right? Their energy, one is not right and the other is wrong. That's not how it works. And man, being a man is not equivalent. It's not the equivalence of masculine frame. In our society that we live in today, a man is expected to bring the masculine frame. So what masculine does is bring structure into the context. The feminine energy, it kind of receives and multiplies, but by itself, it's a chaotic thing. It's not something that can. It's chaotic, especially when you had another person that has a misplaced masculine frame. That means 2 people trying to operate in any one of those 2 is always chaotic. So if 2 people are trying to operate in masculine, it's chaotic. If people are trying to operate in feminine, it's chaotic. So if you have the woman being a typical woman in our society, it's very important to note that feminine doesn't equal to woman. But in our society, that's what it means these days, for the most part, right? If she's in that space where she's saying this man does not bring the best out of me, the last thing a man wants to do, because that's a crisis for a man, the last thing a man wants to do is complain and bicker and bitch about that, or try to keep scores with her, or need validations, or need her to make him feel whole before he acts like he's whole. And I know it's unfair, but life is unfair. All is fair in love and war. So for as long as he continues to try to compete with her, like, oh, you said something, I'm gonna say something back. That's basically how Martell moves. No, he will not be able to get, at least not that girl back.
Right.
The second question, should he get his ex-wife back? I don't think so either. Because I don't think Melody is a wife right now. She couldn't possibly be a wife. She's carrying she's carrying trauma of that marriage around. She's probably in a space where she just wants to be free, right?
Okay.
And if she wants to be free right now, then she's not in that space where she can approach a marriage the way you're supposed to approach it. As in, like, this is an institution, there's duty involved, that she can't. Then when you had a Martell on top of that, so...
Well, can a Martell seduce a Melody to want to be a wife?
It's extremely difficult. And a Martell especially cannot.
Right.
Even
Yeah,
for a
no.
normal person who is not going through the pain that Martell is going through, because he is going through pain, right? Even for a normal person who meets a melody, they have to kind of peel the layers of all of this different trauma that she's carrying around because of the experience she had. So if a stranger meets melody, she's not going to avoid, like, that person is going to have to deal with, because she's going to see everything with the lens of a Martell. If somebody moves a little funny, she's not going to have that kind of patience because of the experience she had with Martell.
Right.
So how much more you bring Martell himself, who is the culprit here, right? So there's multiple layers to why she cannot possibly be a wife so soon. She need to relax with that. Because there's another thing we saw earlier, that she could have been proposed to and try to become a wife. It's not about knowing how to. It's about we are humans, right? And when you carry certain pain around, my outlook on life I will look at everything with that lens.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's perfect.
If it's, I mean, if you've not gotten the proper healing, or if you're not in therapy.
Yeah.
You know.
Even as a man, if I leave a relationship and I try to jump to new ones, if I feel, it doesn't have to be I am hurt. If I feel hurt by the previous woman, the next person I get with is gonna suffer that.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a fair.
No matter how
that
perfect I
person
try
won't
to
stand
do.
a fair chance at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because of that, I don't think Martell should be trying to get the sexual back too. Not because one person is wrong or right, it's because they're not in that space. They really should leave that alone.
Yeah.
And focus, if there's any chance of even them being able to co-parent later properly, right? They should focus on being friends.
Yes.
That's it. Being able to be in a space and avoid the trying to do.
Because they're not friends right now.
Yeah, avoid the trying to do business together. That's a recipe for disaster. Trying to be in the same space all the time. You know, your family friends inviting you to the same space all the time. They need that space.